What's up guys, it's Justin Kahn, and today I'm gonna be roasting dead startups that raise way too much money. My friends over at MSCHF in Brooklyn sent me this box filled with dead startup toys. So there's little toys about startups that raised a ton of money and failed. And come to think of it, I'm kind of lucky that Atrium did not make a physical product to include in this set. God's smiling down on me.
How's it going? I'm Justin Kahn from Justin.tv.
So we're gonna open up what they sent me and see what it is. Actually, I already know because they sent it to me and they told me, but I'm gonna show you. All right. Okay, they got this special MSCHF tape on it. Looks like DHL. This thing here, right here on the box says, press F to pay respect to capitalism. Here, press F to pay respect to capitalism. I like that. Ooh. Okay, they made this dead startup toys box. This is like a set. Each of these things is a startup that's now dead, including Juicero, One Laptop Per Child, Theranos, Jibo, and Coolest Cooler. Okay, let's take them out and see. So, where do we start? It's kind of cool. RIP. Okay, we're gonna start out with a Theranos mini lab. So Theranos, if you don't know what this is, Elizabeth Holmes, who is hailed as this genius Stanford undergrad, started this company for 10 years, doing a new type of blood test. With one prick of blood from your finger, they would be able to tell all sorts of things about you. TLDR, they raised, I don't know, close to $1 billion, something, a lot of money at like a $10 billion valuation, and then failed famously. So inside here is like a little, looks like a printer or fax machine. It's a Theranos thing that just says initializing. Boop, 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 boop. There's a button, doesn't really do anything. It comes in this box.
Why do you think they failed?
Oh, here, it says on the back, details. Theranos mini lab, cause of death, non-existence and fraud. Yes, non-existence is often a problem when you need a product in your startup. Startup lifespan, 2 years. I don't think that's necessarily true. Funding, $724 million. Units shipped, goose egg. Why did they fail? Well, they never really got the product working. There's a whole book about this, and I think a movie, something called Bad Blood. I think there were many problems, but they never really delivered on the product promise. That's a problem. You need a product. Apparently, the funny thing is there's not that much diligence that investors are doing, obviously, because these guys raised $740-something million. So you would think that people would be doing a lot of diligence, but oftentimes, you know, investors get caught up in the hype just like everyone else, and things just, they skip some of those diligence points. Startup lesson, don't raise too much money and make the stakes too high before you build a product. You should start with your product, RIP. Okay, next up, oh, this one's my favorite, Juicero. Juicero. So Juicero was a startup that raised $120 million. They were building something that was like correct for juices. So you would have this machine and then they would send you these pouches and you put the pouches in the machine and it would like make you fresh juice. There's this whole supply chain. They were trying to build a fresh juice component or like food, you know, fruits and stuff in bags. And the idea was like they sell you this machine and then you order these fresh juice pouches from them forever. And people were making fun of it because they were like, why do you need this? You know, you could just use a blender. All right, so let's see what it looks like. Oh, this is it. Here's a little mini Juicero machine. The problem was that you get this machine, it didn't work very well, if I remember correctly. Oh, look, here's a little there's juice inside, a little juice pack. Oh, here's the juice pack inside. That's cute. So you get the juice pack and you could just squeeze it out with your hands. Like you didn't need the machine. You could just squeeze the thing out into a glass and then that was your juice. So people were making fun of Juicero. I actually think it was not a terrible idea because the idea of selling something for cheap that is like the razor blade model. So you get, you know, give away the razor handles and then you sell the razor blades and sell them forever to the same audience of to your set of customers. That's actually a pretty good model. They just didn't materialize for juices. So the question is, were they a solution looking for a problem? I think in general, people do want fresh juice. And if you can make it more convenient, a blender is a pain in the ass because you have to clean it. So if there was some way of getting fresh juice really easily, I actually think that's not a terrible idea. They just raised too much money. You know, one of the common themes is raise a lot of money, don't have that killer of a product. That's a recipe for disaster. So I think, you know, someone could make Juicero work one day, or a new version of Juicero. I think another lesson to be taken away from this, instead of just trying to get out there and make a huge splash, sometimes it's best to just test quietly with a small number of people and a small number of customers and see if people like it. You know, just try something, iterate with a small group of customers who you get to really love you. Next up, we got one laptop per child. So these guys they raised $60 million. They actually shipped 3 million units according to this box, which is not bad. And from 2007 to 2014. So these guys were building this very cheap laptop. Oh, this is pretty cool. It looked like this. It was a green and white laptop. It was very simple, and they'd ship it for people in the developing world, kind of opened up like this. And it was like a cheap laptop, so every child could have a laptop. I think it's a very noble mission. The big problem here is just that people skip laptops. Like the generator, it's kind of like cell phones for landline phones versus cell phones. In the developing world, they just went straight to cell phones. They didn't build the landlines because the cell phone technology existed already. So the same thing was true here. Instead of like laptops, people just have Android phones, cheap, low-cost Android phones all over the world. So you don't really need the laptop form factor. And I think that eventually just became irrelevant. But I would say this is not a bad mission, and the idea of giving everybody a computing device in the world is something that's broadly played out. So RIP, but they served its purpose. All right, here's Jibo. So Jibo was this robot, it looks like this, and it would sit in your house, and it was supposed to talk to you and answer questions.
Hi, Jibo.
Stuff. It didn't like do anything, didn't move around. It wasn't like Rosie from the Jetsons. It didn't make you breakfast. Maybe that was the problem. But it would sit and talk to you. And they announced it, and they did this huge Kickstarter, or Indiegogo, for like $3 or $4 million. And the problem was, in the time it took them to deliver it, Amazon Alexa came out, and people actually already had something that talked to them. So it didn't last very long, you know, kind of continued for a couple of years, but ultimately they got replaced by the big guys. What are the lessons here? Well, hardware is very hard. You can kind of see that through all of these. The other thing is, you know, sometimes you can have the right idea, but you can be outcompeted by the FAANG companies, the big giants. And so really focus on getting things that you can get out to market very quickly. Because if you announce something, whatever, you're working on it, but you're too slow to market, then you could be just replaced. If a big company starts building what you're building, then you just got to focus more narrowly on a narrow set of customers and make them really, really love you. Like a big company is never going to target some like narrow niche, and hopefully that niche can, within that niche you can build a better product for them that eventually works for many other people, or that niche becomes bigger than you think. I mean, think about Twitch, right? With Twitch, with Justin TV, we were competing with YouTube had live video, all these big companies started having live video, Facebook, and then we went what seemed narrower, which was video games, but actually became much, much bigger. Lastly, we got the coolest cooler. Coolest cooler was this cooler that had like a speaker in it, and I think it had a blender on it. The ultimate cooler. So here you go, pops open. There's a little mini blender, that's cool. The blender doesn't really fit. I'm not sure if that's a commentary on the product quality of Coolest Cooler. So Coolest Cooler, they did this like mega Kickstarter. They raised, says $14 million. I think they raised like tens of millions of dollars. All right, so the problem was they actually delivered to some of their customers, but they ultimately failed to deliver for all of them. Hardware, especially with Kickstarters, I think a lot of people didn't calculate the full cost of delivery or counted on raising external financing to deliver on all the units they were selling on Kickstarter, so effectively were selling at a loss, and those companies eventually died, many of them. So Coolest Cooler, RIP, it was pretty cool. I think a lot of people wanted this to exist because the speaker and the blender and all these features, but it didn't make it. Wah wah. All right, so that's it. These are the toys. You can get them at MSCHF. I'm gonna give away this set to someone who drops a comment below about why they really need it, perhaps to serve as an inspiration for their startup on what not to do. So drop a comment, let me know why you need it. I'll give you this set. You know what to do. If you like this video, bang subscribe, turn on video notifications. I'm gonna be dropping more content. Love you all, and I will see you next time. Bam.